So I used to think that I was talented at memorizing music. Turns out I was wrong. And I figured it out that I was wrong when I brought a piece to my professor one day in college to play for her, and I felt like my memory had been like wiped. I couldn't remember a single note. I couldn't remember anything from this piece. And it made me wonder, wait, like, am I actually good at sight reading? Or is there something about the way that I learned the piece that helped me to memorize it? See, before this, I felt like as soon as I had a piece learned, I had it memorized. Now, a lot of people were really jealous of that, and I was jealous of them because they were really good sight readers. And so what I wanted to figure out was what's different about people who are good at sight reading and how they practice, and what's different about people who are good at memorizing, like me, and how they practice. And so it all comes down to how are we storing information? See, our brain has two ways of storing it. We have short-term and long-term memory. Long-term memory, of course, is the stuff that we remember from a long time ago, and it kind of sticks around. Short-term memory, on the other hand, is just memory that we kind of store temporarily and then it gets deleted. So sight reading is really short-term memory heavy, right? Because we're reading a song, we're reading a piece, and then as soon as we've read a measure, we've kind of forgotten what came after because we're looking ahead and trying to kind of really quickly get a gist of what's coming up in the next measure. Now, long-term is different because in long-term, I need to hang on to it even after I've played the notes, right? I want to be able to play this piece again, right? And so long-term is different. And now how it gets encoded in our brains is different. And what I've discovered is that there's one simple tool. It's not really a trick. It's more of a process for moving information from short-term to long-term. And turns out it all comes down to what you're looking at when you practice. So let me show you what I mean. Now, what I've realized is that when sight readers who are really good, when sight readers play songs, they keep their eyes completely on the sheet music. And that makes sense. They have so much information that they need to process that they got to keep their eyes locked into the sheet music. Now, what's different about me is that I wasn't a good sight reader. I was better at memorizing. So what was I doing that helped me to memorize these pieces? Well, it all comes down to how often are you recalling something from memory? The more you recall a piece of information, the more your brain says, hey, that's actually important. I shouldn't just delete it. I should probably put that in long-term storage. Because what's really weird about our brains is our brains are actually designed to forget stuff. If you remembered everything that's ever happened to you, that's way too much information for your brain to hold. So your brain is trained to forget. When we're trying to memorize something, we need to train it to remember, and we have to tell it that this is important to remember. So the way that we do that is by consistently recalling that information. So this is what I learned when I was playing this piece in college. I had memorized all of my other repertoire, and this piece was late. I was late in learning it. And so what I did was each week I was trying to just learn enough that I could at least like kind of sight read it and play it for my teacher in the lesson. It was me totally being a bad student. I was totally like messing with my process of how I learned pieces. And so I got to a point where actually I could sight read it okay, but as soon as I tried to play it from memory, poof, it was gone. It's because I hadn't done any work to move this into long-term memory, and all I'd done was sight read it and kept it in short-term memory. Does that make sense? Now the problem with short-term memory is what? We're deleting it as soon as we do it, right? And that's what happens when we sight read. So we need to have a different approach when we practice. And again, what's cool about this is once you've learned your piece, you'll practically have it memorized if you follow this process, or at least I do when I follow it. I can't speak for everyone, I suppose. But here's what I do. So when I'm ready to learn a piece, what I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna try and play the whole piece right away. Now, if you've been around piano teachers long enough, they all say, hey, practice slow, practice in small sections. That will certainly help, but there's one thing that's missing for memory. And the part that it's missing is that people are still looking always at the sheet music. What's different about memorizers is they don't look at the sheet music when they play, they look at their hands. So this is the rule. You can read sheet music with your eyes, but you have to play it with your eyes on your hands. So what's so cool about this is if I look at this first measure and I'm trying to learn this first measure, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna try and like get it all in my memory. Okay, so I have like these 3 notes that go up to F, and then I have this and then 2 chords. Okay, let's try it. So now I'm gonna look at my hands only, not gonna look at the sheet music. What was that next chord? Oh shoot, I was almost there. Did you see what I missed? there was a third note on that last chord. Now what's really interesting about that is that now I've done two things actually. One is that I've recalled this information. I'm not training my brain that it's short-term memory and I can forget it. I've recalled it and forced it to recall. And if you do that over and over again, you're going to move that information from short-term to long-term. The second thing that happened, did you notice, is I didn't play it perfectly. I didn't play it perfectly, and that's actually 100% okay. Actually, in some ways, there's something better about not playing it right the first time. This is what's so cool about this, is that when your brain sees that you've done something wrong, your brain freaks out just a little bit inside, right? We all have this little perfectionist minion in our brains that's like, oh, it has to be perfect every time. And when it's not perfect, what happens to that minion? It freaks out and it's like, I cannot let that happen again. That was so embarrassing, right? And so what's so cool is if you actually, not that you try to play things wrong, but as you do this method, you'll play stuff that's wrong. Oh shoot, I forgot that there's a C in there. What's so cool is that now, that's the part that I remember about the measure the most, is that that last chord has F, A, and C in it. And so as you're learning this, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything right the first time. In fact, it's an advantage if you mess something up, because when you do it again, you'll remember it really well. The reason I remember this is that when I was a kid in elementary school, we had these like vocab spelling lists, right? And sometimes in practice, I would mess up a word and it would get marked wrong on my homework. And that was so embarrassing for me because I was this perfectionist that when the test came around, all those vocab words that I'd gotten wrong, I always got right on those tests. So I hope you use that tip. Hopefully it helps you, and I'll see you on the next one.